As precious as anima is to me, I've been avoiding learning how to do the mission table properly for the longest time. And since you're here, I assume you have similar problems, so we'll be going over everything you can possibly do to increase your chances of winning more, and that includes add-ons, positioning, mission priorities, who to send on missions and when, as well as some newly discovered advanced strategies. My name is Ivona, and if we're meeting for the first time, it's a good idea to press that sub button, as I do a bunch of simple WoW guides for classes, dungeons, raids, and collectibles, so if you like getting those easy wins in WoW, you're in the right place. Some people prefer waiting until the end of the video to give you their best tips, but we're gonna start off with what you most likely want to know, and that's add-ons. The first one is a simple mission table week aura that shows you an estimate of how likely you are to win or lose the mission. I found this one to be super rough, and if you're close to 0, the mission can go both ways, as it doesn't account for the special abilities. Still, it's a good addition, and I'll link that one and everything else in the description. The second one you really want to have is the Covenant Mission Helper. Now this one is really cool because it simulates the whole fight after you've positioned your troops, taking all their special abilities into account, and it gives you a full simulated combat log and your minions' remaining HP, with an estimate on what's gonna happen. And it also helps you optimize your positioning by clicking the optimize button, which shuffles your troops around so that you can have the best possible outcome, which I found to be very useful. There's another add-on working really well alongside those called Covenant Mission Success Estimates, and that essentially tells you if you're gonna make it or not by calculating how many rounds it would take your opponents to win versus how many it would take you to win. This does not factor in abilities, so it's a rough estimate, but it can help you save anima by not sending your troops onto a sinking ship for like 12 hours. And finally, there's Venture Plan, which is not available on Curse or any other add-on managers, so you'll have to install it manually. And if you don't know how to do that, there's a short guide in the description of this video as well. This one is a real beast as it transforms your mission table UI, showing you exactly how much experience you're getting for all your missions, how difficult they are, when they expire, and a bunch more in a super convenient way. It also adds a ton of features in the actual mission overlay, where you'll have an additional button to press to determine what your odds are of succeeding at your mission. When you've got all these things working together, you can really be sure you've done everything you could to optimize your missions, but without any additional knowledge on the mission table, you won't really know which ones to send on certain missions and how, and that's what the rest of the video is about. When it comes to improving your basic knowledge on missions, the first thing you want to start doing is actually reading your and your opponent's abilities. This sounds obvious, but I know so many people who send all their companions in a formation of all damage dealers in the front, one healer in the back, call it a day, lose the mission and all their anima, and they never get around to understand why they lost. Don't be that person and make an effort to read what you and your opponents do, because you'll learn the abilities icons soon enough and they'll start repeating themselves, so you won't have to even read through them anymore. Also, the game is a lot more fun when you read those and roleplay a bit, as it feels less generic and more like an adventure. The next thing you want to do is try to collect all 16 companions, and regardless of your covenant, that's how many of them you can have. Actually, 6 are from your covenant campaign, and the remaining 10 are from different wings in Torghast, so if you've been slacking on that front, there's a good reason to come back and do a few layers. Another thing you can do is use the WoW companion app on your phone. When it comes to missions, if you get used to handling them with add-ons, sending them from your phone can feel less optimized and more risky, but it's better to send them than not to send them all day when you can't log in on your PC and you want to do the missions. You can now join your guild chat, check all the world quests, the calendar, and everything you hold dear, so it's a great app overall and completely free as well. What you should be doing, regardless of whether you're on your phone or PC, is watching the combat instead of just clicking complete. You'll do so much better if you understand the order in which the minions hit, what the abilities look like on board, and which ones actually wreck you. You can read all that from the log, but it's not very graphic and it's hard to understand where you got it wrong if you just read or simply click complete and you never take a look. If you're completely new to this auto battler thing, I highly recommend taking a bit of time to at least try a game or two of any auto battler that's out there. Considering Blizzard has its own auto battler in the form of Hearthstone Battlegrounds, and a lot of philosophy behind game design is shared within the company, it's a good idea to get into a match or two just to get a feeling for it. And if you're looking to learn more about positioning of healers and beefy minions, Dota Underlords may also be a good choice. They're all free and you don't need to have any experience to jump into them, so you can check those out if you feel like you need to. Alright, so now that we covered the basics, we're gonna dive into the missions a bit, and I'll give you some basic tips on how you can get better, followed by more advanced strategies and tips you may not have known about. First, I want to talk about tanks, and you'll have access to the actual tank troops if you're in Bastion, for example. I mean, what else would you be getting in Bastion, right? The general idea is to position the tanks in the front. However, there are exceptions. For example, when your opponents are targeting the back row of minions with their abilities, it's okay to put the tanks there as you want them to survive the additional damage and protect the others. So they don't always do it by standing in the front, and that's why you want to read the abilities. When it comes to the healers, however, you're usually going to want those in the back regardless, because most minions facing you have at least a passive damage ability that will affect the healers. Most people find the bottom left position to be best in most cases, but again, read the abilities and don't put your healers in places targeted by ranged opponents as well. Also, some healers do attack with their special abilities, and those can deal quite a bit of damage. That's why it's important to know what your healer is doing, if it's not a troop but a minion instead, and position it in a way that it deals maximum damage while keeping your minions alive. When it comes to your actual troops, it's important to know that those don't need to be leveled. Their level is the average of all your companions' levels, so when you get new companions, send them on every XP mission you get so that they don't wreck your other mission's progress. This one may be more obvious, but if you're facing opponents with a shield, meaning they're tanks, you want to focus less on healing and having tanks and do more damage, as they're usually beefy opponents with not a lot of damage of their own. If your opponents are damage dealers, then you want to protect your troops more and judge whether one healer is enough or not. If you're wondering whether or not you should be sending your companions on missions when they're at low health, the answer can also be yes, as they can easily level while on a mission and that fully heals them. So check how much experience your followers are missing until the next level, and if they're close to the ding, you can comfortably send them and know they'll be healed during the mission. Here's a tip when you want to do those high-end missions. If you have high-level companions with good abilities, those are going to matter a lot, even more than the damage your troops can produce. So when you're going for that pet, your mount, or whatever you're after, send your best team and take your best shot, rather than filling the spots with essentially nobodies. If you have a companion you want to prioritize when it comes to experience, you want to send them alone, along with the troops. The reason for that is because your single champion will get all the mission's experience reward instead of having to share, so that's good news. When it comes to the experience missions though, the ones that offer additional bonus experience as a sole reward, that's where you want as many of your companions as possible, as they will all benefit from the experience bonus, so make a difference between how the rewards are distributed there and in the ordinary missions where all XP is shared. Now, let's say you want to get rid of a dangerous minion first. What you want to do is have as many of those single target special ability minions aiming right at them, so you can burst that one down and make your gameplay so much easier. Sometimes that's a healer, but if the healer has way too much HP and seems impossible to demolish, bursting on a DPS with less HP but a wrecking ability can be a lot better for you instead. This is also something you already know about, but for the sake of new players, I'd like to mention that you can use multiple of the same troops in your missions, but you will pay an additional anima every time you duplicate a troop, so just be aware of that. Finally, if you're not into add-ons, estimates, and all that stuff, there's simple math you can always do to judge whether or not you have a shot at the mission. If you're facing an opponent who, let's say, has 3 times the amount your health, it's recommended for your attack power to be 3 times higher than his. Also, you can divide your opponent's HP by your attack, and that's an estimate on how many rounds you need to kill them without all the abilities taken into consideration. By doing the same with your HP and your opponent's attack, you'll see how much danger you're in, and that's how you can determine whether or not the mission is even possible to begin with. Now that we've gone through the mission stuff, I'd like to point out some UI tips that may not be that obvious or presented in a perfect way, so you can take advantage of those as well. The first thing to note is that your adventure missions, the ones with the icon next to them, are the ones unlocking your progress and leading to better rewards. It's a bit unclear when it comes to how many of them there are, but if you're using Venture Plan, you'll have a number on the top right that'll show you how many of them you've got unlocked, so it can give you an idea of what your progress is. When it comes to healing your companions, you don't have to spend all that anima to do it. Instead, you can just go to your champion's menu and heal only the ones you need for an important mission that's about to expire in a few hours. So be smart about your resources, know your companions and their powers, and only if you need them for some difficult missions, go for the anima heal. Now that we're talking about the companions menu, it's a good idea to mention that you can take a look at each of your companions and see their attack value, and this number is their auto attack that they perform every single turn regardless of their abilities. You'll notice that some of them have a ridiculous amount of damage, and that isn't obvious from the mission menu, so that's how you can get to know them and take advantage of this piece of information. Another important thing, and this may be obvious, but to me it wasn't at the beginning for some reason, is that the damage from your opponents is not an average damage from a companion, and the numbers on your opponent's health bars are also not their damage but health instead. And there's no way to see how hard a single opponent will be hitting, and the number you see on the top right is the overall damage from all opponents that does not include the abilities, so be aware of that. When it comes to the anima missions, the ones that award green anima items worth 5 anima, those are worth doing because they do upgrade into blue items that are worth 35. So the maximum greens amount is 12, I think, which is 65 anima per mission, and once they upgrade into blues, the base amount is 2 times 35, which is 70. I'm not sure if these will upgrade and by how much, but it seems like all those green rewards get turned into blues, so they're worth doing to make some sort of progress on them as you get higher level missions. I just wanted to share some quick thoughts on building upgrades. In my very honest opinion, I don't think these buildings are worth upgrading. Some people say that it unlocks your other missions if you do, but it doesn't say that on the mission upgrade thing, and I'm yet to confirm that. So if you know that this is true, please post it in the comments. But overall, faster heal and missions are not that exotic, and if you're not tryharding for some reason, I wouldn't bother too much with it, as anima is still currently very difficult to come by. And that's all I've got to share with you. I hope this was useful, and if you learned at least one new thing about the mission table, please leave this video a like. And if you haven't subbed yet, now is a good time to do that so you don't miss any of my future guides, and I upload a new video every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. If you have some questions or tips of your own, let me know in the comments so we can help more people together. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye. As precious as anima is to me, I've been avoiding learning how to do the mission table properly for the longest time. And since you're here, I assume you have similar problems, so we'll be going over everything you can possibly do to increase your chances of winning more, and that includes